Welcome to another episode of the Adrienne Ross Show, where sports and culture connect. I don't know if you had an opportunity to watch Post Moves, the latest podcast episode with Candace Parker and Aaliyah Boston, but Sydney Colson was on the show, and I found part of the dialogue or trialogue in this case rather interesting. I'm trying to figure out why there is so much to say from the outside about the Indiana Fever. Now, I know why there's so much to say positively or why there should be, but you keep hearing this recurring theme that somehow being in Indiana is a negative thing. And we're coming to understand that the players who were picked up in the offseason really kind of had to man up or woman up, if you will, to even come to Indiana. Sid Coulson has spoken on this before, and I covered it before, but more was said in this episode. And I got to talk about it a little bit more because I find it strange. It seems to me that the Fever organization is classy. The players, whenever they're interviewed, they do so with articulation. They are very respectful. You never hear Indiana Fever players coming to the microphone for a post-game press conference or sideline interview or during the game or anything, and you got to kind of wonder what they're going to say. Can't say the same about every player in the league. But when it comes to the Indiana Fever, they just seem to be a classy organization that for some reason has gotten a really bad rap. And it's just downright strange. We're going to go to a couple portions of that interview. And please forgive me if I stop along the way. I know that annoys some people so much. They're like, just play the clip, please. But I'm here to talk about it. If I wait to the end, sometimes I'll forget. So I try not to stop too much. But yeah, let's get going.
Whether I'm playing, things look, we want things to look like what we want them to look like. And I knew coming into this season, once people started talking, once I was here and experiencing it, like people had a lot to say. There was a lot of negativity.
And that's what I'm talking about. She got to Indiana, people started talking, and they were talking negativity. Why?
There was a lot of negativity coming my way. And I just looked at it like, I'm not used to this. Typically, I'm the person that people are just like, oh, we love Sid, that's funny, blah blah blah. Some people be like, not funny, and I'm like, they don't have a sense of humor. But like, for the most part, for the most part, people have liked me and have admired me from the outside. But that's never made me do the things I do. Like I do the things that I do because I enjoy my teammates, because I like comedy, because I like whatever I'm doing, not for other people's approval. So once I got here and was experiencing people's disapproval, it didn't really faze me because I still understood. I think I understood even more so that this is definitely a part of my plan. When people get to not liking you for no reason, I'm probably exactly where I need to be. So once the injury happened, I'm like, once again, this is something that I don't fully get, but this must be where I need to be, sidelined. And it made me an even more vocal leader. It made me pay attention to things maybe that I wasn't paying attention to that other people had going on. So I could be more tapped into if they're having a hard time and I need to come over here and help them out, whether it's mental, physical, whatever. I had to get outside of me. And that was the lesson that I learned in this. I hope it's the one that God wanted me to learn, but yeah, it was just one of those things that nobody wants that to happen, but you still have to move forward and figure out a way to still be, of service to your team.
Who would think that making a career decision, okay, I'm going to go play in Indiana, requires all those things? Like you expect people to think about, okay, well, this is where I am right now and I'm comfortable here, or man, I have to pack up my stuff and I have to go. And that kind of thing, those transition things that everyone goes through. But the fact that she had to deal with negativity and had to weigh that decision because people had something to say about her going to play with the Indiana Fever is just strange once again. But notice what she said. When people start having a problem with you for no good reason, that's a clue that you're doing the right thing. It's like you hear people say all the time, the devil don't mess with you if there's no reason to mess with you. The devil don't mess with you if you're not a threat. When you become a threat, when you're actually doing something worthwhile, that's when you end up experiencing opposition very often. So great mindset on her part. But why would anybody even have to think those thoughts? And this isn't, again, the first time. We heard her say before, she did another video. I forgot whose podcast she was on. Sue Bird's, maybe somebody's podcast. And I did a video on it. And she was saying, well, you know what the thinking is about Indiana. And I said, well, like, that's the elephant in the room. And I equated that to what I am sure it has something to do with. And that is the whole race narrative that somehow came upon Indiana. And so when you're a person like she is, who is well liked, this was a change for her because everybody talks about Sid. She's funny. She's a comedian. She's lighthearted. She can be serious, but she can drop both of them at any given time. But they love Sid Coulson. That's what I heard when Indiana decided to pick her up. It was like, everybody loves Sid. Everybody loves Sid. So imagine what it was like when she made the tough decision to come to Indiana. And then people were talking smack. Why? Because Caitlin Clark is there, because somehow the whole racist thing came out, even though everybody who's there is loving the team. They were talking this kind of stuff about Aaliyah Boston. The ritual being, of course, you're gonna be special because you're gonna, how is it? What is it? I forgot what it is. You're going to be amazing. Thank you, Adrienne. Catch up with your own brain. You're going to be amazing because you are amazing. And then there were people making that a whole race thing, and she's a sellout and this. And I'm sure this is some of what the Black players had to experience out there. But somehow Indiana was the racist team. And then after she came to Indiana, very first game of the season, the whole situation with Angel Reese and so-called sounds that were made and things that were said that ended up being absolute nonsense. I keep saying strange. It's strange. It's odd. It's weird. It's a basketball team made up of people. How did they end up getting this shadow over them? This is what I mean when I say narratives. This is what I mean when I say even us as fans. So many people embrace narratives that are just ridiculous because they're saying negative things out there about us. Anyway, like she said, she knew she was doing the right thing. But speaking of narratives, let's go to another clip. And it starts off with Sydney Colson talking about the team. And then Aaliyah Boston is going to ask her a very interesting question. And her answer is even more interesting and goes right along with what we're already talking about.
Being on this team, it was definitely a good time. I love Steph, I love our assistants. The organization treated me very well, and yeah, it was good. I wanted to be somewhere where I could, play some more. And obviously, my season ended in an unexpected fashion, but still getting to be around the team and us making it almost to the finals was very cool. It was very cool.
Nice. I just have to know because I feel like everyone always thinks something about Indy. But once you say the Fever, it's like thoughts, right? So what was your biggest surprise after coming to Indy and you were like, well, you know what? These people kind of cool, right?
Yeah, I think the environment in the locker room was much better than what you would have anticipated as like somebody from the outside.
And why? This is my point. It's so good to have people like Sid busting narratives, because why? Why is it that it was better than you would have thought from the outside? What exactly do they think is happening in Indiana? And why?
Yeah, I think the environment in the locker room was much better than what you would have anticipated as like somebody from the outside looking in. And I think that we were like intentional about doing stuff. Like when we got to the point where we started to hang out more and um everybody was like, oh, like, yeah, like I'm enjoying people off the court. And at that point we were already like on a stretch of like winning some games. We're like, oh, well, if hanging out off the court helps, we should just keep doing that. Maybe it'll help on court. You know what I'm saying? So seeing that we got to the point that we got to without really developing an off court relationship um was like interesting, and it only got better, I think, as we started to do it more. But yeah, I think that was the most surprising thing for me, like the in locker room chemistry.
So fascinating that people came to Indiana not expecting what they got. And we hear other players talking, like Sid's talking, about the locker room, about the camaraderie, about the love. It's not like she's the only person. And I think that there were many who were just surprised. And this speaks to what your mama taught you when you were young, even though a lot of times our mamas and our families are the reason why we don't trust certain people. But that's a whole different podcast, perhaps on the second channel. But no, seriously though, this is what we learn when we're children. At least we're supposedly learning, and that is to treat people like people. Like, don't put people in boxes and don't make assumptions and all those things that we say, and then we don't actually live that out. And thankfully, again, people like Sid, she just felt the need to move on, and she came to Indiana a little bit nervous. The negativity comes and all that, and then she's like, yo, they are so cool, and they built relationships and they got closer. Let this be a lesson to every one of us once again. And even like Aaliyah Boston said, everybody has thoughts about Indiana. And I say again, why? When did these thoughts come to the team? Why now in this era of basketball? And we already know the answer to the question, that somehow with Caitlin Clark coming. Now, somebody knows that this was the case back when Stephanie was in the league playing, or when Tamika Catchings won the championship. Like, if this has always been the mindset about the Indiana Fever, then you guys can say so. But I don't think so. I think that there was a pushing of a narrative with an agenda to try to paint Caitlin Clark and her fans, and therefore the rest of the team, in a negative light. And that's why it took a certain amount of courage, believe it or not, to even come there, which is wild. But this is such a special group. They're out there telling, we love our teammates, we love our coaches, the fans love us, and we love them. Busting narratives. Now, you're always going to find people who are going to hold on, come hell or high water. They're going to die on that hill. Like Kelsey said once, they don't have any clue what's going on in our locker room. But we are getting a clue over and over again, because people who are well respected, such as Sid Coulson, they're telling the truth. They ain't lying at all. Keep speaking the truth, ladies. I'll catch you next time, God willing. God bless you abundantly.